Now we will learn how to factor trinomials using the box method, which is a method that you might be familiar with and you learned in Algebra 1, because this is how factoring starts in Algebra 1 using the box method. Now, when do I use this method? I use this method when I have a trinomial, which is 3 terms. I use this method when x to the power 2 has an a, which is a 2 in this case. So if I have a trinomial and the x to the power 2 has an a, then I can use the box method. Now let's see what we can do in this case. Now the first thing I need to do when I have a trinomial like that is I need to multiply the a with the c. So let's recognize what the a is, what the b is, and what the c is. A is a 2, b is a 5, and c is a negative 3. So the first thing I need to do is to multiply 2 times negative 3 to get what AC is. 2 times negative 3 is negative 6. So I need 2 numbers that would multiply to give me the AC value, which is a negative 6 in this case, and add to give me a B, which is a 5 in this case. So let's list all of the factors of the negative 6 and see which one would add to give me 5. I know that it shows the 2 numbers over here, but I would like to walk you through this so you can try the other one on your own. Now, what multiplies to give me 6? I know 6 times 1 would give me a 6, but if I add them, that will give me a 7. But it didn't give me negative 6, so what do I need to do? One of them has to be a negative. So negative 6 times 1 is a negative 6. Now let's see if that is going to add up to give me 5, because this is what I want. That's my b value. So I need something that would add to the b value. Negative 6 plus 1 is a negative 5. I need a positive 5, so what I do is that I switch the signs. So instead of negative 6, I put 6. Instead of 1, I put negative 1. Now let's try. 6 plus negative 1 is a 5. And that's what I want. And 6 times negative 1 is a negative 6. So I found those 2 numbers. There are 6 and negative 1. Now what do I do after that? I look back at the trinomial. 2x to the power 2, I copy it down. The 5x should be split into the 2 numbers I just found. So instead of 5x, I write down 6x and negative 1x, which is negative x. Now if you combine those 2 terms, 6x minus x, that's going to give you 5x. That's how you check that you're on the right track. Okay? The constant, you copy it down. So now I have 2x to the power 2 plus 6x minus x minus 3. So I always copy the first term and the last term, and I split the middle term. What do I split it to? Once I find those 2 numbers that multiply to give me AC and add to give me B, that's what I split the middle term to. Now, what I need to do is I need to draw a box and I need to arrange those 4 terms in the box. It doesn't really matter how you arrange them. So if you put 2x squared over here or here or here, it will still give you the right or correct answer. But for me to be like organized in my work, and this is how I will do it in this video, is that I will put the 2x to the power 2 over here. The 2 terms I split, I will put 1 over here and the second over here, and the constant will go on the bottom right. Now again, if you switch those in the box, it doesn't really matter, okay? As long as you put each one of them in the box. Okay? Now with that said, after you arrange those 4 terms in the box, you need to factor out the GCF, or what's common between every 2 terms. For example, you look, let's start vertically. 2x squared and negative x. What's common between them? This has a number, this does not have a number, or basically it's negative 1. So 2 and negative 1 has nothing in common. This is x to the power 2 and this is x, so I can see that there is an x in common. I put it on top of this vertical side, the first column. Now let's move on to the second column. 6 and negative 3, what's in common? 6 is divisible by 3, 3 is divisible by 3, so I know that there is a 3 in common. This has an x, this does not have an x, so there is no x in common. Now how did I decide the sign of this 3 is going to be a positive? Because this 6x is positive, so this is positive. Now let's move on to the rows, the two rows. Now I look at those two, and I try to figure out what's in common. I put it on the left. Again, I look at those two and decide what's in common, and I put it on the left. Now 2x to the power 2 and 6x. This is 2, this is 6. 2 is divisible by 2. 2 divided by 2 is a 1. And 6 is also divisible by 2. 6 divided by 2 is a 3. So I know that there's a 2 in common. Now this is x to the power 2, and this is an x. So I know that there is an x in common. You always take the x with the lower power. And x to the power 2 has a power of 2. X has a power of 1. So x is the lower power. I factor it out. Now let's move on to the second row. This is negative x, and this is a negative 3. The only thing in common is the negative 1. Now why did I decide to take a negative out? Because the first term in this row is negative, so you take the negative 1 out. Now once you do the GCF for the columns and the rows, you are done. These are your two factors, 2x minus 1 and x plus 3, and you're done. That's how you factor using the box method. Now I would like you to pause the video and try to use whatever we did over here on the left side. Try to use the same method to do the problem on the right side. Take 3 minutes to try to factor this using the box method, and then play the video again. Now I hope you tried on your own. Let's work together to find out the two factors for this trinomial. So let's see, should I use the box method? Let's check. I have 3 terms. The x squared has a coefficient of 3, so yes, I can use the box method. Now this method works for any trinomial that has a coefficient in front of the x to the power 2, that has an a that's different from 1. So now the first thing I need to do is I need to multiply the a and the c. So let's decide what the a is. It's 3. What is the b? 4. What is the c? Negative 15. So if I multiply a times c, 3 times negative 15, that's a negative 45. So I need two numbers that would multiply to give me negative 45, which is your a times c, and add to give me b, which is the 4 in this case. So two numbers that would multiply to give you ac and add to give you b. So is that supposed to be negative 45? Okay, now it's negative 45. Now what are those two numbers? Now let's list the factors that multiply to give you negative 45. And then I need to see which ones can add to give me 4. Now, honestly, if you cannot think of those two numbers, there's always a trick that you can go to the calculator, go to y1 equals, and put whatever the AC is over x. In this case, the AC is negative 45. So go to y1 and put negative 45 over x. After you put the AC, which is negative 45 in this case, over x, you can go to the table. So click on second graph. Once you click on the table will give you all of the factors, all the x and the y that can multiply to give me a negative 45. Now some of them will be decimals, so if you have decimals, disregard those answers. Just look for the whole numbers on the x and on the y. Look for the whole numbers. And now once you find the whole numbers, add those whole numbers and see which one will give you the b, which is in this case the 4. So go ahead and try it. Go to y1, put negative 45 over x, click on the table, and see which numbers will add up, which x and y will add up to give me a 4. Now remember, you don't have to worry anymore about whether they multiply to give you negative 45, because once you put y1 equals negative 45 over x and you go to the table, everything listed on x and y will be something that would multiply to give you negative 45. Now your job is to find those two numbers that would add to give you your b. Now look through the calculator, look through the table, and you will see that those two numbers are 9 and negative 5. Add those two. 9 plus negative 5 is 4. Now if you were in the negative 9 and 5, you will see that those will add up to negative 4. But that's not what you want, but that will show you that you got the number. Now to get the sign that you want, you just need to switch those signs. So instead of the negative 9, you have a 9. Instead of the 5, you have a negative 5, okay? So this is a trick on the calculator to help you find those two numbers if you're having trouble finding those two numbers. So the two numbers are 9 and negative 5. 9 times negative 5 is a negative 45. 9 plus negative 5 is a 4. Now once I find those two numbers, I need to split the middle term into those two numbers. So I copy the first, turn down, and I fill one part of the box with that. I split the middle term 4x into plus 9x and minus 5x, and let's put those in the box as well. It doesn't matter if you switch those two, okay? You will still get the same answer. Now the last one is your negative 15. That's the constant, so put negative 15 in the box as well. And let's put it on the line over here. So you see how we switch the trinomial down to a 4 terms? So we can put it in the box, which has 4 different spaces. Now I need to find the GCF in the columns and the rows. So let's look. What's common between these two terms? This is a 3, this is a negative 5, so there's nothing in common. But I can see that there is an x in common, so I put the x up. Now, 9x minus 15. It looks like those two numbers are divisible by 3. 9 divided by 3 is a 3, and 15 divided by 3 is a 5. So the 3 is in common. It's a positive 3. Now, let's look at the rows. What's common between those two? This is a 3 and a 9. These two are divisible by 3, so I put a 3 on the outside. I can also tell that there is an x in common, so I put an x on the outside. Now, I can see that the first term in this row is a negative, so I know that the GCF should have a negative in it. Now, let's look at the numbers. 5 and 15, both of them are divisible by 5. Now, there's no x in common, so it's only 5. And I'm done. These are my two factors, x plus 3 and 3x minus 5. And that's factoring a trinomial where a is different from 1 using the box method. Now in the next video you will learn the grouping method. So if this method works for you, it works for any type of trinomial. You don't have to use the grouping method. But if this method seems hard for you and you don't get it, there is another method, and that will be the next thing.